Hello, right, what we've got today is a Fluke 117 which is showing Cal Error. A couple of things to point out: it's not a firmware issue, alright, I'll just reiterate that, it's nothing to do with firmware. This meter even has lost all of its calibration constants, so it doesn't know what values look like anymore. It's no good sending it away for calibration because it'll just come back and say it's faulty. What calibration is you send it away for annual calibration. They will show your meter, for argument's sake, 1 volt. Your meter reads 1 volt, it passes. It reads 1.2 volts, it fails. That's an annual calibration. It doesn't adjust a meter. This meter needs a calibration adjustment, if you like. It needs to be shown what 1 volt looks like and told that's 1 volt. It's a very accurate 1 volt, and the meter will then accept that, and it'll move on to the next calibration point, as you'll see. You've got to go through, it's quite lengthy this, and the video's probably going to go on for in excess of about 25 minutes, I would have thought. You've got to show it specific values for it to accept them and then move on to the next point. If it doesn't like the value, it will not move on. You'll be stuck with this. Couple of apologies. One is the fan on the calibrator, it's quite noisy. The other is my chair, it's quite squeaky. And I also haven't set one of these meters up for probably about 2 years plus, and I think I've only ever done one, which is my personal one before that. This has come to me in a box of junk from somebody. It's been sitting in the cupboard for quite a long time, and I thought, you know what, we'll just show everybody it's nothing to do with firmware, the same as your Fluke 1651s, 52s, 53s, the Fluke multifunction B series as well. Your non-clicking error one is not firmware, it's the same issue as this. It's lost all of its settings and it needs to be retaught them. That's what it is. No magic fix for it, not the kind of thing you can do at home. You need some equipment to do it with, which will just kind of jump out a little bit. So we're using a Time Electronics 5025 calibrator today, which is going to be doing this one. So the other thing to point out is Fluke actually wrote the book wrong on this for the adjustments. They tend to have a bit of a habit of doing this. So to get it into adjustment mode, press and hold the hold button, turn it to ohms, and there we go, Cal. Because Fluke have written the book wrong, fortunately the meter will tell us the values it wants. First thing that you have to do is put in the calibration code, which is default 1234. If some idiot has changed it inside the meter, if you open it up, there's 2 terminals, top left hand side marked F7. Short them pair out, apply 9 volts in the correct polarity to the meter, power it on, it'll beep a couple of times and it'll reset to 1234. That's your way around that. Okay, so the first one, it wants to see open terminals, so we'll leave the terminals open, press the button and it will accept that, and it will go to 0.2 millivolts DC, and this is where the book's wrong, because the book tells you it's AC and it's a complete load of rubbish. And it wants 0 millivolts DC applying. Could just put a short in there, but I'm not going to. I'm actually going to set the calibrator up for 0, just to give it a little bit of background noise, really, so it knows what it looks like. Press that. If it accepts it, it'll go on to the next point. There we go, Cal 3. Again, millivolts DC, so 300, so we'll just set the calibrator up for that. You'll see the little graph go up there. Give it a second to settle. My calibrator's fairly quick. So it doesn't really take a lot of settling time, though the meter does. Okay, so now it wants 100, so we'll just set the meter calibrator up even for 100. Apply that, you'll see the graph go up again as it changes range. Press the little button, there we go, on to 0.5, and you carry on like this all the way through. So we want minus 300. Just apply that. Okay, Cal 0.6, 60 volts, that's 60 millivolts even. $60 press the button, and Cal 0.7, 600. The scale's gone up there, press that. There we go. And see, it won't take it until it's accepted it. Right, now we go on to millivolts AC. And just looking at the sheet for this one, 0 Hertz, which you can't get to. I can get to 10 Hertz, which I know is acceptable for this meter. 600 millivolts AC, so we'll just apply that. And we're flashing ohms, so we go on to ohms, take the lead out, ask it what it wants, and it wants 600 ohms. So pop that back in there, onto the auxiliary terminals. So there we go, 600 ohms, should apply that. Give it a second to settle. So it's really important to use some decent test leads. Okay, on to the next one. This is 6K. So again, just adjust the calibrator. I mean, you can do this with something like a WaveTech 9000, 9100, with many of the Fluke calibrators. You can probably do this with a 9823, I would suspect. Whatever you're doing it with, the accuracy has got to be more than the meter that you're setting up, which goes without saying. 60K. This 5025 will do meters up to 6.5 digits accuracy, so things like your Agilents, 34401As, your Keithley 2100s, that kind of thing. You've probably noticed as well in the background 5075 as well, which helps to confirm the accuracy of the calibrator. That does up to 7.5 digits. Okay, so now we're on to 6 meg. So it's quite a lengthy procedure, this. I mean, people charge for doing it. You can kind of see where the money is going and the equipment and the time of effort it takes to do it. Step 14 is 0. The thing is with these, I'm just going to put the shorting bar across there just to make life a bit easier. Thing is with this, if it fails a step, you have to start all over again. It's an absolute pain in the arse. 40 meg. It's the same with the multifunction testers as well. It goes through a series of steps on them. If it fails, you have to do that whole block again. On these, if it fails, you have to set the whole meter up again. This video is probably about the 5th one I made, because I got so far through it last time only to find out that the internal 10 amp fuse had blown on the circuit board, which was ace. Right, it's now asking for volts AC. ask it what it wants, and it wants 6 volts AC, so I need to pop the lead back into the top terminals again. That's my squeaky chair. 6 volts AC. Right, and what I need to do is see what frequency that wants to be. 60 Hertz. Right, that's all in the book. That bit of the book is written right, by the way, so you can trust that bit. What you can't do is trust the whole thing, as we found out previously. Okay, the next one is 60 volts AC. That's 60 Hertz. Check the frequency, which is right. And the bleepings are calibrated because it's over 50 volts. You can see the little scale go up there. And there we go. On to the next one. Cal point 18, 600 volts AC, and this is where you want to make sure that you've got things right. Otherwise it goes up pear-shaped for you. 600 volts AC. So the scale climbing, give it a second to settle. Cal point 19, you can see it's changed now to volts DC, so you want 6 volts DC. So we shall just apply that. Scale's gone up. Press the magic button. Next we want 60. So as I said, it is quite long-winded, this. Not a 5-minute job by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, next we want 600 volts DC. And beeping again because we're over 50 volts. Just a bit of a safety warning from the calibrator. Okay, next we're on to amps. We're going to swap leads here because this lead's a bit thin. It's pretty expensive and I'm not in the habit of blowing it up. And it wants 6 amps. So let's find something with a bit more beef. Like these, into the high current terminals. So we want 6 amps AC, and according to the book it is 60 Hertz again. So an issue for this calibrator, this one goes up to 20 amps. Without the coil extension pack. Alright, 6 amps, you can see it climbing. Press the button. 23. Now is amps DC. And it wants 6 amps again. 6 amps DC. Just apply that, watch it climb. There we go, end. Right, I'm pretty sure at the end you need to press the little yellow button to confirm it, and she'll just read in the manual to double check. After each step, pressing that, number changes. After the final step shows end, press that to enter meter mode. And there you go. And that is how you do it. So you can now turn the meter off. Turn it to volt, to 117 it comes up, and there you go. So volts AC, let's find you a couple of leads. Pop that in there, making sure that the polarity is right. AC volts, we'll say, I don't know, 1 volt AC. And there you go. How accurate is that? It's pretty much there, isn't it? DC. DC volts. Do it 1 volt DC. There you go, bang on. You can see it's 3-digit. Calibrator's a little bit more accurate than that. So we know we're giving it absolutely bob on at 1 volt. That's been confirmed with the 5075 7.5 digit multimeter. And again, we've got to 2 volts. Bang on. As it falls over, millivolts DC. Let's see what it's like on that. 100. Let's make sure the terminals are all set up properly. It's on AC, you stupid boy. There we go. There you go, 100 millivolts DC. AC just for giggles. Get 100 again. That's the magic button. And there you go, 100.7, a little bit high on AC. Obviously there's some tolerance in the calibrator. It's going to do a frequency check. So we get AC volts, give it 1 volt, and that is set to 50 Hertz. So there's a 1 volt coming up. If you press that, it'll bang on 50 Hertz. Change it to 150 Hertz. The meter goes up that high, but the calibrator certainly does. Yeah, 150 Hertz, bob on. And there we go. What we've got in the way of milliamps again. Milliamps DC. Or milliamp. Yeah, it's come up amps, isn't it? Because we're not on the milliamp DC range. Oh no, we haven't got it. That's a bit of a pain, isn't it? Okay. Again, 2 milliamps. Let's see the last one go up to 2. There we go. Absolutely spot on. So there we go. That is how you do it. Again, absolutely sod all to do with firmware. Everything to do with having to take a meter all the way through a factory adjustment process again to relearn it all of its values. Turn the meter off as many times as you like, but there we go, that's it, that meter's all back and sorted again. Cheers for watching, there we go, and please don't tell me that your firmware's corrupt so that it needs flashing, because you'll be talking absolute rubbish. Catch you next time.